Hey, I switched. I got my microphone
Oh boy.
instead of set of my headphones in that freaking gaming piece. I gotta figure that out. Well, they say that for podcasts that you want to wear headphones,
Okay.
and I wonder if that's because you sound different when you can hear yourself speak.
That's
So, I mean,
yeah.
even just having those on and listening to myself with them on, maybe that's why I'm taking them off because I'm like, this is uncomfortable listening to myself talk.
It is hard. It's hard, I think, for so many of us. You must get used to it as time goes on.
I mean, it is true that that was probably my number one fear was public speaking. And I used to actually say how much I hated my voice. Like I hated hearing myself talk. Um, and I talk all the time now. But and there's a lot of recordings and it really is that practice of, you know, well, one, I don't re-listen to myself every time I say something. So, you know, what's done is done kind of deal. But um still, it is definitely a practice to get used to speaking, being on camera, having other people be able to re-listen to what you say to know like, oh, did that make sense? I don't know, but hopefully you got the message, whatever it was.
I like that. It reminds me back in the day when I really first like heard myself speak. And I remember it was at school and we had one of those black little recorders. Remember you put your tape in the one side and have play, stop, rewind, fast forward. And we were recording some story for class.
Yeah.
And I was shocked and super embarrassed with just how I sounded. I was just,
Mm.
you hear it and you're just like, that's me. I like, that's how, because, and I agree. Like, wow, I mean, this is a deep conversation at large, just because too, over my life, my hearing has been kind of modified here and there. And there were moments that I'd be in the big box and they'd be testing it and I'd have some type of a device in and to hear yourself. So I imagine Becky, having not thought about this for a long time, I don't, how any of us hear ourselves, it's not how I don't hear, I hear you, but you hear yourself
Mhm.
different. So when my voice was recorded, it was just like, no, that's not me.
Yeah.
And then yeah, that's interesting.
That is interesting. I was actually going to ask you, remembering that you have hearing, do you have them in both?
I do. I had, and I actually don't have them in right now.
Okay.
Sometimes I take a break. It's like glasses. Well, now that I need to wear glasses often too, it's kind of a lot on the ears. I got to give them a rest.
That's true.
I can't hold it all up. The
That's
weekend.
true.
Um,
It's the weekend. Let them rest. I love it. So have you been hard of hearing your whole life or what
yeah,
age? Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
It started. I had my first surgery when I was 2 years old.
Oh, wow.
I was born premature. I was 5 weeks early,
Okay.
so that the lack of development was huge for like the eustachian tubes, and then
Mm.
my ears. And so I had the tubes multiple times, and then things just evolved, and there were some other surgeries. A lot of strange pronunciation for those surgeries. um, and then the most recent and probably the most impactful, I had a tumor, and so um, just they ended up having to rebuild both of my eardrums.
Oh, wow.
So something else that I think is so cool for me, and I know it's one reason I wanted long hair so much, like because
Mm.
I had short hair, and I think my mom always thought it made sense because they were shaving my head for all the surgeries.
Yeah.
And it was not until like I was in eighth grade for a surgery, I remember, and I had grown out my hair, and I loved it. I looked like, I looked like everybody else, right? Um, and then we were going in, and that was the most concerning. I remember going under and falling asleep in the doctor. I was like holding his hand. I was like, please, please, please don't shave my hair. And then when I woke up later, he told me that they were able to do it without having to shave. And that was, and truly as a kid,
Mhm.
that was all I was more worried about, and looking back, I'm sure my mom was just like, holy cow, like, is everything going to be okay? So, hearing, her ear, everything, the tumor. And so, yeah, but there is that part. That's why I'm a little partial about my hair. Like, I haven't thought about that in a long time. There's
Yeah.
things you have, right? Like, you just really, especially as you get older and you can own it. Like, my mom liked me in short hair too. Like, as soon as you started growing it up, like, I really like your hair short. I mean, maybe it was more parents that do that, like, oh, but I really like when you wear that dress, and yes, like your dress example, I could see, like, I think of when my husband's like, oh, I really like that dress on you. If I'd say, which one? That
Yeah.
feels good. But and as time went on, and like my mom, like, and I grew up, that felt a little slightful. Like now and then I'd come home to visit and she'd be like, oh, why don't you just cut your hair off, And I was like, but I like this, You're like, I feel good. However, yeah, I don't know. I think that's why some of us do, people grow out a beard and they do all these things, and it's you and you get to do it. So whether you choose to dye your hair pink, you do it. You do you.
Right. Well, and thinking about like mine, is
Yeah.
chosen to be shaved on the side and my undercut is shaved as well. And I don't, I mean, the undercut, the first time I chose to shave my undercut underneath was really because of the snarls that would happen on the very bottom of my hair, the layer of my hair. It would just snarl up so much. And I was told like, oh, that might, it might give it some air too, because I have a lot of hair, obviously. Um, and I was like, okay, that's fine. No one will see it anyways, unless I put my hair up. And I don't tend to put my hair up a lot. Um, so I, committed to doing that. And then years later, I don't even know actually how I got on this idea of what if I shaved one side, and it was just more or less like it just kind of folded that way. And it was just something that I was like annoying on one side. I don't know. But I am planning to regrow it out.
Are
So I'm
you?
just ready for a change. I'm just
Yes.
ready for the change. And yeah. So but I'm in a couple weddings this summer. So I'm waiting until I'm waiting until after that. And then I'll make the decision to start growing it out and playing with it, and then you're in different phases of the hair where you get to
Uh-huh.
figure it out.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah. But I was gonna ask you, did did you know then why you wanted your to grow your hair out? Did you know that it was a part of like from, having to cut it, for the medical side of things? Did you already know that you had an attachment to wanting to grow it out because you could? Or are you realizing that like as you got older?
I think for sure when I was younger, once I could, I mean, to think back, I didn't want to do one of the last surgeries because I thought they were going to cut my hair. Of course, there's that moment where you're like, why was I so caught up in how I looked? Right. But the hair thing was like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Many girls, I'm sure, and boys, you marvel at what people have around you. And everyone had their beautiful long hair, they had their bangs, and I had a very different head of hair, and it was short, and I looked probably, a lot like my mom. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, I think there's that, and certainly just rehashing this with you, yeah, it does bring that back. I do appreciate it. And I'll tell you, I probably did a little bit of that thought process when my girls started growing hair. Like, I will let them grow it out. And then you know what? Two of them, I think maybe eventually all three, they all wanted to cut it into a bob. And I was like, go for it. I didn't want them to feel like I was making a decision for them. I was
Mm.
like, what do you want to do with your hair? They'd sit in the chair and it's up to you. That way they knew too. like the one went and cut bangs. And then, it's like, okay. And not that bangs are, they are what they are. Yet
Yeah.
she also has a lot of the body like me. So, you know, they don't just wear straight and stay where you put them.
Right. It takes effort when you make those kinds of cuts, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's really what it boils down to, at least for me in my experience. Like, oh yeah, want you to, for myself, to just think about like the maintenance that goes into certain haircuts, or colors for that matter, that, there has to be a consistency that happens in order for it to feel good and look the way that we want it to. There's a commitment that happens.
Yes. That's a good point. And it's
Yeah.
like, we know that, right? I mean, I went through the bangs.
Only from our own experience, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah. And you're like, I just don't want to go back to that phase. And I don't want them to have the curling irons and, the Aquanet and have to deal with having to wake up in the morning and do your bangs. Like, just
I love that you reference Aquanet. Aquanet. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Okay, well, I'm curious. Right, okay, so your book, Get Out of Your Way, Live Your Life for You. Now I'm like, oh my, well, this could go for like so many different things. And now we're talking about our hair. Like, how can you be doing your hair? Um, but anyway, I'm curious about the book too. I wanted to ask you, when did you decide that you were going to write a book?
gosh.
Because it was like all of a sudden Tammy had a book. Order Tammy's book is like where it was. It was like, what? That's amazing. So I am curious. When did you decide that you were writing the books? I know you went to a writer's retreat. And then like from when you decided or when you knew maybe that you were going to write a book until like you did come out with your book. Tell us about that time frame.
Gosh, so I went to the retreat and I think it was, gosh, in October. And, having, decided to go, I thought, hey, there's a few days I get to journal. I had been working on what I still think might be a memoir, but the opportunity to go and meet some new people and learn a little bit more of how to write and get away, it just all sounded amazing. Like it was good. It was a retreat. And then I got there and got to really get to know everyone around me. And so many people had written books, and then we learned some of the basics as to how to approach writing. And then one of my new friends had shared, you could write something and you could frame it in the ABCs, and I think she was implying, this could be easy, like, as I think all of us, who grows up thinking that they can be an author. I mean, people think they know they want to be one. I never would have imagined a year ago that I would have wrote a book. And, I think it was exciting at first because I love challenges, and for me to fit, what was I going to put into my ABCs? And so I kind of transitioned some of what I had already drafted into a memoir, and more or less took so much of what I know are the strategies that were effective for me to navigate some of the experiences I've had in the last few years. And that's what I put into the ABCs. So rather than tell all the stories of the things that felt heavy, felt light, felt so good, so hard, I talked about how I made it through, and experienced all of that and grew through those time periods. So yeah, I didn't know I was gonna officially write the book probably until maybe it was late November. I connected with one of
Wow.
my friends from the retreat, and I had shared with her the idea that, hey, you know what? I really had spent the amount of time. I was going through all those ABCs. I think I finished A through Z before I left that retreat. I was up through the night. It was
Oh, I love it.
so fun. Like, that's the challenge for me. Like, but you had to find a letter to go with each of those things that I've been doing. So yes, when I got to explore, I did, tweak that a little bit and borrowed the E for the X in the alphabet.
Got creative. You got
Gosh darn
creative.
it. Yes, that kept me up. But the idea that I was doing it for me and I was reflecting on all the things that I found so amazing, when I think about the little things that I was doing, and then also so many of the big things, the way I was changing my mindset, applying so many of the tools, the guidance, that you and the OP community, so many friends and, books that I've been reading kind of compiled all that. It's not as if I created these ideas. It was, I fit them into what I believe are my strategies that work for me to live my life with intention. And so knowing that I had built this, Becky, and hearing from you and so many others, that we all have a story, and how so much of, the things that you had said to me and so many other people that pulled me through and really helped me show up as my authentic self, and learning to really love my life, and if I wasn't loving on it, to figure out, how I would be, getting there. So if I could make any impact on anyone else, that would be awesome for me. I have always wanted to make a difference. So the book is my attempt to do that, to bring some courage, comfort to someone else out there who is looking to be brave, make some type of a choice, whether it's a little or a big one. It's, and I'll share too, I don't like the word pet peeve, but I don't know how else to describe it. But I know for as long as I can remember, I would, be with people, and people would remark about how they want to someday go to Hawaii, or, they really wish that they could go to that retreat, or, darn it, someday I want to buy myself those shoes. And, it just bothered me as I grew older too, because people would just say that and then they wouldn't follow through. And that doesn't align with me, and that's where I've really discovered in the last few years how important integrity is. If you want something, work to get it, or, don't complain about how much you want it and that someday maybe you'll get it. And I think the maybe, that where I'm really, I struggle with that with people, is that I want everyone to have it. I want them to have the joy. I don't want them to tell me that, oh, when I retire, I'm going to do it. Because I've experienced enough people that have not even had a chance to retire, and their life's been cut short. So I want people to believe that they can do it. It's just they are going to have to put in the effort to figure out how to. So I get a little frustrated sometimes when people are like, oh yeah, I'm not going to go. It's going to be too much work. I'm going to have to, figure out how to take care of the kids and, feed the husband. And you're like, really? And sometimes the old me would be consumed with that, and then think for a moment and turn it around on myself, like, well, what kind of wife and mom am I? I don't feel so bad that I want to go.
Right.
And of course, as time went on, sometimes I would feel really bad, and I wouldn't even begin to think about it. Like, it's not an option. Because this stuff that I reflected in the book, it's been going on for, probably over the last 20 some years. I mean, some of it's youth, that I've had challenges with. And it's just the point that, like you had said, getting out of my way, getting out of my head, and just doing it. It was so many different circumstances where I was good at it for a while, and then you'd fall off the horse and you'd do what was comfortable, what everyone else was doing. And, or I wasn't, disappointing my mom with my hair, like I felt like I wanted to make everyone happy. That got exhausting, and no one is going to know how exhausted or frustrated, resentful you might feel. And you might not even know how that all is like ruminating inside you and making you not be the person that you're meant to be. So I think, and I know this is a long answer for, why the book, but I am really hopeful, and the opportunity to sit down with you is really cool because there's been a few moments where, I've achieved the book, felt really excited to share it with friends, family, with the world, and hopeful and optimistic too, and really grateful when I hear people that have read it and they've shared like how inspiring it was, or just joy that they felt, or that they bought it for some other friends. It's about getting the message out there. And so for a moment, what bothers me is like, I don't want it to just sit on the shelf. I want to figure out how I can build the momentum, and have people really recognize that they have the ability. Every day there's an opportunity to work towards something that they know deep down they want, or to sit with something and question, like, why don't I feel comfortable or feel happy when I go and do this thing?
Mm.
If I feel like I'm forcing myself to go and be with some people that I don't feel like I can be my true self with, is that worth it? And are you just not wanting to make someone feel bad by saying no? It's just all those types of things. I don't want people to continue to get strung up with that, consumed with those stories, when I know how much, my mom, with her passing in the last year, it's life is finite. You don't get to do a redo, and you don't get to know that you can check all the boxes before it ends. So work to prioritize some of those things that you really want to do, make them happen now. Like, so.
Yeah. I love that, Tammy. So, right, because when we decide what we want and then we take a step toward it, that is applying courage, right? It is stepping in with hope that, you can get closer to it by saying yes in the moments. And what I love is that a certain kind of persistence needs to happen when you are continually asking yourself, like, am I living the life that I want? Am I living my life my way and for me versus for other people? There's a persistence that does need to be there, because it's every day that we're um every day is a new day that we need to wipe the slate clean and really just keep assessing and knowing that we have the power of choice to be able to decide, if something or people, someone, right, is still serving you, if it's still in alignment, if that relationship or that, that job or whatever it is, if it's still, important to you because it's your life that you're living. And when we do take the time to reflect, because that's what I love about the simple things that you put together in this book are so profound, because there is a spot for us to take notes and draw something, right? And sketch it out. And I love that. And I love that there's prompts in here. It's just the inspirational quotes, like all the pieces, the intentional pieces in this book are so beautiful that even down to the hearts on the eyes. Like, oh my gosh. So intentional, so fun. And I love that the top of all the pages on the left hand side say, get out of your way. That reminder throughout the whole book, to just remember, like, this is about us. Like, it is about yourself when you're going through this book, and to get out of your own way while you read this. So I'm just gonna I grabbed G.
Yeah.
G is for grow. It says, trust the wait, embrace the uncertainty, enjoy the beauty of becoming. When nothing is certain, anything is possible. And that's by Mandy Hale. So I love, and I'm all about growth. So I'll share a couple of the prompts in here too. How does a grow approach make you feel? I love that question. How does a grow approach make you feel? And for me, a grow approach is open to possibility. It's it's being willing to look at the possibilities and take a step toward it. Really with that mindset of anything is possible. So these are just a couple of things that I really, really loved. Oh, and you mentioned how me and everyone that you surround yourself with, how they've inspired you, and these aren't all your ideas and that you gather from somewhere. Like, that's exactly right. Like, there are no real original ideas. We're always evolving with the things that the podcasts that we're listening to, the books that we're reading, the workshops and mentorships that we have in our life. It's all shaping us. And I love that in the back of your book that you have a little inspiration page, giving those kudos to people that have or organizations that have supported you or inspired you throughout this book. I love everything about this powerful little like guidebook to how we get to live the life that we want. So good.
Well, and I can't take all the credit. My friend Mary Helen was just huge and really believing in me and getting me excited and helping me kind of pare down what this task was. And she helped pull it together. And two, with that, someone having that faith in you,
Mm-hmm.
that builds confidence, and it goes back to, yes, I matter. They see me. And, it's not as if when I contacted her in November and she's like, what do you have? Oh, no, no, you're not ready. She was all about helping me, promote it. Like, okay, let's do it. Because I had figured out I wanted it to be published on Valentine's Day. And I just told her, I said, it's about loving who you are and loving, your life. And if you want to build toward the life that you will love, so what better day to put it out there to the world than, the day of love. So that was cool. She was like, okay, we'll do it. And so we did.
Yeah, I love it. Can you tell me, was the cover your decision? Tell me more about the cover.
We worked on the cover, but it was Mary Helen. She came up with it. I definitely, just as you find, the whole driving that
Mhm.
resonates, and I had shared enough with Mary Helen too that this was about my journey and and how I'm behind the wheel and I'm no longer gonna just put it in cruise. I'm gonna pay attention and truly too, it's awesome to spend some time with someone who she saw me for who I was and she listened. Like the brief amount of time we spent together, and then she came up with that picture, and it was good. It was perfect. It's all been divine.
Yeah, I love it. Just the simplicity of the path, it's not detailed with things on the side of the road or, anything overpowering or overwhelming in the image, but just really simply that this is a path and you're following your heart.
Yeah, yeah. So she captured that so well. I love it. And red is my favorite color. So
There you
I
go.
was excited. Yeah. So cool.
I love that. So would you say that there is any um because we're talking about car analogies and that I love car analogies and we talk a lot about detours or rest stops. Would you say that was there any detours or rest stops on your journey with the book? Even with, I mean, we know that the book had been in you for such a long time, as you mentioned, but it came out so quickly, in the scheme of things, it was like, wow. Um, would you say that there was any real like detours or rest stops in your journey with bringing the book out?
Gosh, I kind of almost think about a yield sign, like,
Okay.
and this happens. And I think that speaks for why I've been like this for my life, where a lot of times I might be working on something and I don't want everybody to know that I'm doing the things, right? I can't put exact, explanation with it as to sometimes I need to prove to myself that I
Mm.
can accomplish something. And I like to be cautious with others' expectations. Or two, I'm just not comfortable with the questions they might ask. and how I don't like to be the center of attention. And I don't want, this wasn't about me, and it just, so I kind of kept it safe, like tucked, to the side, and I got up early. I'm an early riser. I spent a lot of time mornings and wanting to reshape some of what I had written. And then, yes, then the holidays, so I had November, and then, things ramped up, and there's those moments where I had some adrenaline going, like I'd have to exchange with Mary Helen and be like, okay, things are looking good. And then I believe, we published the book on Amazon, and she said, there's a delay. There's some delays they're experiencing, and this is unique. They haven't had this before. And you know what, Becky, I go right to the fear of, well, maybe that's safer. Like, you know what, maybe this isn't meant to be. Like, it's just, and I love that Mary Helen was very forward with me from the start. Like, we both knew I didn't write, a best-selling magazine book, excuse me. And so, she had said, you might be writing this book, and it might be you that appreciates it the most. And that has stuck with me. And I also see that, feel it, and know that that's kind of like when I first, did a half marathon. I didn't tell all the people. A lot of friends, family didn't know. I just did my thing. I trained, and then I went out and did it. And then I was really proud. And then, yes, I would share it with people. I did it. So I don't know. There's pros or cons to looking at it like that. Yeah, the book, most importantly, I don't want people, some people came at me as if I kept this from them. And it wasn't like a negative, it was just kind of like, yeah, I was just kind of creating it and then delivered it.
Yeah. I love that too. Like thinking about how some things work for, extra encouragement or, accountability when we publicly declare things. Sometimes that serves us and sometimes it doesn't, right? Sometimes it can be to our detriment that we're like, oh, and we might scare ourselves more when we say it out loud and then we feel like there's a lot more pressure or it starts to actually make us shrink back more than it helps us stand out and step into that. So I think kudos to you for knowing how it would best support you in getting the message out because, it may not have been for you, but it was you doing it. So you needed to do what was best for you in order to bring it to fruition and have it be a reality. And I think that also has, says something about how important it is to have like inside people to support you on those missions, on those projects that are really like head down focus type things because everybody doesn't need to know everything that you're doing and there's a certain level of protection that happens when it's something that's coming from your heart and really been kind of building up to come out. So yeah, who's to say, right? Who needs to hear it and who doesn't and the timing. And I mean, here's proof that it worked. You did it your way,
Yeah.
right? You did it your way.
Yeah, that's huge. That's definitely a statement that, for so long I wasn't, doing things my way because it wasn't the popular, it was uncomfortable. It seemed weird to people or, why not do it this way, and sometimes, just deep down things don't align and you didn't feel comfortable, and you felt like you were forcing things. And so it's been so liberating, and the book is a huge piece of my journey in that I did it. Um, More importantly, what I won't know are, all the outcomes or the impact that it has. And I'm hopeful that this is, it builds on the message that is out there, that people, get this one shot and, to go big and live for themselves. Certainly, have fun.
Yeah, I think right, picturing having fun, it's like, yeah, jump in, go for a car ride, jump get on the path, get on the journey and do it your way. And I I see that for you. And you know that am future focused a little bit. So I love always asking, thinking about 5 years. And I've always used 5 years, but I love that I've found some mentors more recently that really talk about, having a 5 year vision and the importance of that. But I don't know if you know this, Tammy, that I had a video podcast series in 2018 that I did for a couple of years. And that was always the last question I would ask everyone on there was, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And just thinking about, your book, Get Out of Your Way, Live Your Life for You. I'm curious, do you see more for doing books or anything specifically with your journey and now having published your first book with the next couple of years?
I think about what you just mentioned with accountability, that the book is for me, it's springboard that I'm going to choose. It's going to need to, take some patience. Um, but I want to build off of this. And personally, yes, it's going to hold me accountable. I use the book. I'm reviewing it and I love it. They're all my favorite, strategies. They're what I know works for me. And so if I can continue to apply these for myself, and that means I show up as my best self every day. And then I can deliver on, being the mother that I want to be, and exploring, the world, whether it's hiking, traveling, trying something new. I'm doing it in the frame of mind that I know allows me to be present and to have fun with it. And so the 5 year plan is awesome because I think that, and I know, I mean, you and we sat through a session and I did some type of presentation with OP like 3 years ago. And
Yeah.
at that point, my journey, I was probably on a high. And then, it kind of took a little bit of a detour and went down for a bit. So I feel like I've caught myself and I've got some strong guardrails with the book.
Mm.
And those are going to help me to hopefully continue to deliver, and help build momentum to the world, to help other people, recognize that they too, whether they're 50 or whatever age, they can try a new career. They could, switch their job. They don't, feel like they should do this because that's how their parents did it forever. And so if I can continue to remind people and be that voice or just a whisper that yes, you can, why not? And, and maybe give them that extra courage or nudge, that'll feel good. So to continue to do it for me, and I've got 3 daughters, and it's already definitely impacting them. And obviously they've been an experiment. So for the last few years, yes, they know and they see now within each of their books, like I put it in writing, the things that I say and try to influence them and have them think about. I've shared it with everybody. So, I hope that has, and will continue to take them far because they're feeling more comfortable knowing that, hey, my mom is, going out, I'm going to be 48, but that old, and I deal with stuff they deal with, and it doesn't get easier. What I'm reminding them is, things to think of, what you can do when you're feeling, really frustrated or, you need a change, and how to know that it's okay to speak up or it's okay to just tuck in for the night, all that. So in 5 years, I'm pretty optimistic that I'm going to see, a lot of growth and joy because I'm already seeing it in the last few, just with me practicing.
Yeah. And now you have the manual right in front of you. It's in print.
Yeah.
It's your work. It is, it's there. What I love too, Tam, is that you talk about earlier, you talked about living in integrity, and love hearing how, it's true that this is the way that you are living it, right? You're using the book for yourself. And I think that that is just such a great like thing to make sure and pull through in this conversation, is knowing that living in that integrity, living, by what we preach, and really being able to utilize the resources that we know support us, and go back to them, be reminded of who you are in the way that, you do that best. And I think that, I mean, I'm just super excited and proud to see this and be a part of, getting to support you and having more people read it, use it, not just read it, but implement it into our lives. And I would love to see a book study group happening with your book. I would love that. Um, and just the reflection piece. We know how important the reflection is, and this is laid out beautifully to be able to support in doing that. So Tammy, where can everyone go and grab the book? Where's the best place?
It's on Amazon.
Okay, great. So just look up Get Out of Your Way, Live Your Life for You. I'll actually have it in the show notes as well for easy click access. And Tammy, where can the viewers and listeners go and connect with you?
My email address is in the book, but it's also, I don't know if you want to list it, but yeah, it's just tshack@gmail.com. So
Awesome.
feel free. I definitely have connected with a few people and appreciate, just not just learning of how, impactful, but things that people have tried and shared some strategies with me. Because I'm still practicing, showing up every day. So always can use something new.
Yeah, she's open to the resources and the opportunities for growth, just like the rest of us that are buying the book to go and do the work. We're in it together, right?
Right.
We're all in our own self work. So I love that. Tam, is there anything else that you want to share before we close out?
I do want to let you know that it looks like the event that I mentioned to you, that my a friend who owns the local wine bar here in Cross Plains, she's going to help put on an event that's going to be geared toward a little bit of journalism. I don't know if that's a word. Journaling,
Okay.
excuse me, and I can share my book. And then
That's
a
exciting.
friend that I made through the Enneagram retreat that I went to a year ago, he's going to present a bit and help people understand how the Enneagram works. And if you read the book, you'll learn, how I truly found that knowledge and understanding of, me being a 1 on the Enneagram scale, and bringing that self-compassion and recognition of this is me. And then finding that there's other people like me, and not feeling so unique, but that, this is it. We are built the way we are. And, that exception was big. And I feel like for some people, getting to the point of knowing that they matter, and that, the way they feel, the way they think about life, and it's fine. It's them. Um, and so once you get that down, I think then it's just the intention, executing the things you want to bring into your life and things you want to do, because you do matter, and don't discount it. So I'm excited. It's going to be, I think, May 17th, and it'll be here in Cross Plains. So more information's coming.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Okay, well, when you have a link or anything that you want me to put in the show notes, I can always go back and add that in there as well for everyone that's listening before that date, to come and check that out or learn more about it online. And I want to say thank you so much, friend. This has been so fun to get to have you on the Choose on Purpose podcast, and to have you sharing your wealth of knowledge, and really just, I mean, right, courage to just do the thing that is on your heart to do. And I love, love, love that it was like, oh, I had it all mapped out from that retreat weekend, that we, just gave yourself the time to be in it and set the intention and went for it. And there it is. It's in our hands. So I'm just super excited, super grateful to get to talk with you more about it. And I want to thank you.
Oh, thank you, Becky. I really love being here with you, having listened to so many of your podcasts. There's so many lights out there, and I'm hopeful that I get to shine one too. This has been great. Thank you.
You betcha. I'm super excited, and I want to thank you for sharing your green light moment in getting this book out there, having the courage to do that, sharing some of those yield signs or bumps in the roads to be able to know that, you know, things do happen and you persisted through them, and being that example for other people that are like, maybe someday, here's that someday you might want to write a book or find people to support you. Well, connect with Tammy. She's obviously got some people in her back pocket that she knows how to tap into some support and is willing to connect with you. So thank you for listening to the Choose on Purpose podcast. I'm Becky Plautz, your host, and we will see you next time.